Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review to Everton's 1-0 victory against Sheffield United last night at Bramley-Moore. Not the greatest game of football, was it? Let's be perfectly honest. It was pretty dull for almost the entirety of the game, but Gylfi Sigurdsson popping up in the 80th minute, to find the winner for Carlo Ancelotti's Everton and taking us back to second in the Premier League table. A really important win that yesterday because, again, like I said, it wasn't the greatest game of football whatsoever. And sometimes in the Premier League and in football in general, you have those games where they're just a real slugfest and it's not brilliant and no team has, amazing chances. And it's just got 0-0 written all over it. That game for me had 0-0 all over it all day. And those are the type of games that you need to pop up and you need to win, especially if you decide that, wanting to fight for a European position or fighting at the top end of the table. And I'm not saying that we're fighting for league titles this season, but if you are a team fighting for league titles, those are the games that you need to come out and win. Those are the games that you really need to be getting the 3 points in. The games in which it might necessarily be very entertaining, there mightn't be a lot of chances, but one moment of magic turns it on its head and you come away with the win. It's so vitally important that we won that game yesterday because, again, we were coming up against a side in Sheffield United who hadn't won a game all season, only picked up 2 points through 2 draws, and there would have been a lot of disappointment and there would have been a lot of negativity surrounding Everton yesterday if we wouldn't have won that game. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't an unbelievable performance. I'm not going to sit here today and talk about how it was a brilliant performance and we were absolutely amazing. It wasn't a brilliant performance, but you have to look at it in perspective, and the perspective is we were without Alan, who is one of our best players, certainly our best central midfielder and is pretty irreplaceable in what he does. We were without James Rodriguez, whose creativity was massively lacking yesterday. We were without Richarlison. We hadn't won a game without Richarlison in the squad at all since he's been at Everton Football Club. Yesterday was the first win we managed to pick up when Richarlison wasn't involved since he signed in 2018. We were without Luca Dean, who also brings an awful lot of creativity. So it was a massive 3 points yesterday. And again, it was a brilliant win to sort of build the confidence back up after what was a disappointing, cup performance and result last week in the quarter final. And again, play Manchester City tomorrow, 48 hours after we kicked off against Sheffield United. We kick off against one of the best teams in world football, one of the strongest squads in world football as well. We spoke on Wednesday about how Everton's squad just isn't really up to it to compete in the league and the Carabao Cup and to compete against these sides who have got massive squads. Manchester City are one of those sides, so it was massively important that game in between those against a team that, let's be honest, are in poor form and have had a really bad season so far. It was important that we come away with the 3 points, and it was never going to be easy because Sheffield United was so desperate to not lose. Ultimately, again, they're on target for, I think they've already hit the worst start in Premier League history, maybe even English football. I might be wrong with that, but it was certainly a stat that was mentioned yesterday. So they were just desperate to not lose that game of football, and we needed to go out and win. And when you take away the midfield, masterclass that Alan brings every time he puts on an Everton shirt, when you take away the creativity from James Rodriguez and Luca Dean, then it's difficult. And I know you can sit here and say, oh yeah, but we beat Arsenal and Chelsea and Leicester without James Rodriguez and Luca Dean, and that's fair enough, and that's right. But ultimately, again, those teams, certainly Chelsea and Leicester, come out to hit us on the attack, and we defended and hit them on the counter-attack. Sheffield United yesterday were desperate to just not lose that game of football, and it was up to Everton to go out and actively find the 3 points, and we did that. And look, it wasn't in unbelievable fashion, to be fair. It was quite similar to the Boxing Day fixture last season, Carlo Ancelotti's first game in charge of Everton against Burnley. I don't know if any of you remember it, but it was a very difficult game of football. It wasn't great whatsoever. They Burnley done a lot of defending, and I think Dom scored a diving header in something like the 80th minute to win the game for us, and there was just such a relief that we'd managed to get the 3 points. And it was the same yesterday. It wasn't a classic. It's not one that we'll sit here and talk about for weeks and weeks and weeks, but it was one of those games that I honestly feel, and this is me being honest, and you might say, oh Cam, you're only saying that because it's happened, or you're only saying that because, we've been on a good run of form. But I honestly believe this, and I don't know if anybody else believes this. Everton last season, Everton 2 seasons ago, Everton notoriously wouldn't have won that game because everything was set up for Sheffield United to go and pick up their first win of the season. You know, they hadn't won a game all season. I think Chris Wilder's on 99 wins in the Premier League as Sheffield United manager, or certainly it might be 99 wins in the Premier League, but 99 wins. So he's on his 100th win. They haven't won a Premier League game so far this season. They've massively struggled, and Everton had the chance to go up to second. And to be fair, to be pretty solid in second after Leicester and Manchester United dropped points and Chelsea were absolutely bladdered by Arsenal. So that was all set up. Think back to, you know, the beginning of last season, I think it was, which sounds mad to say, when we played Aston Villa and we had the chance to go top of the league for the first time in however long, and we were beaten by them because that mentality thing of, oh my God, you know, we could go top here, it just completely got the better of us. We just turned up yesterday and done the business. We absolutely done the business. Carlo Ancelotti has picked up 12 points out of 12 in the Premier League against Leicester, Chelsea, Arsenal and Sheffield United. We've conceded 1 goal and it was through a silly penalty given away through a silly challenge by Tom Davies. No goals conceded from open play. We're playing with 2 centre-backs at full-back who are playing their absolute heart out, and we're sitting second in the Premier League. We've done all of that without Alan in 2 of the games, without James Rodriguez for any of the games, without Luca Dean for any of the games. Don't think he played against Chelsea. And without Richarlison yesterday, who, you know, we all know the stat that surrounded the football club is that since Richarlison has been at Everton, we haven't won a game of football without him in the squad. So it was a big win, a big win. It wasn't a great performance, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a classic. We weren't absolutely brilliant. We did lack a lot of creativity that I think we need to fix going into tomorrow's game against City because they're a very difficult side to beat. But ultimately, we come away with the 3 points, and that's all that matters. At the end of the season, we're not going to be looking back going, oh, remember that game against Sheffield United where, you know, we were absolutely dreadful and we barely got the win. We'll just be looking back going, beat them. As long as you get that 3 points and you've got that W next to your record, doesn't really matter how it happened. Doesn't really matter if you were brilliant, if you were great. Yeah, obviously, you know, we need to fix things going into tomorrow's game because we're coming up against a very good attacking side, a much better side than Sheffield United, and a side that are going to cause us a lot more issues than Sheffield United did. But ultimately, we know that. We know that going into tomorrow. We know that they've got a massive squad. We know that, again, you know, there's going to be some... You know, there's going to be some players playing tomorrow. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, for example, who probably does need a rest ideally, but we haven't got, you know, we basically we can't rest him because there's nobody else that can come in. But it was a massive win. It really was. Big thanks to everybody for joining us in the live comments today. Really do appreciate it. I know it's a Sunday. You're probably all sitting there thinking, piss off, Cam. I just want to enjoy me Sunday. But a big thanks to everybody for watching. If you are enjoying, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to share the stream on social media. Get as many people involved as possible. That would mean a great deal to me. The preview to the City game will be coming up a little bit later on today, so look out for that one. Wayne says, hey guys, Cam lad. Hi mate, how you doing? Andy says, yes then Cam. Come on you Blues. It's right mate. Liam says, hey Cam, love the vids. Thank you very much, Liam. He says 4 wins out of 4. What a defensive masterclass. Up the league we go and up the toffees. Carlo Fantastico. Carlo Magnifico. Of course, mate. Carl says hello, mate. People who say James makes us worse are clueless. He creates so much. We lack chances without him. We do. And again, we lacked a lot of chances. Yes, a lot of creativity yesterday. We did. You know, again, quite similar to the Manchester United game. We had a few half chances. Dominic Calvert-Lewin has a brilliant chance in the first half. If that goes in, I was sitting in the Black Horse on County Road. If you're local, you'll know that pub. Basically, I was sitting in the local pub watching the game. And if that Dominic Calvert-Lewin chance had gone in, I honestly think I'd have been on the bar. Just screaming and shouting and just being absolutely brilliant, just being absolutely made up, because it was just set up to be a perfect goal. The chest is unbelievable. The volley, it's almost too perfect. I was speaking to my dad about this before. I went down and had a little conversation with my dad about the game because he was watching it as well, but he was on a different table, and he said it was almost hit too well, too perfect. He needed to scuff it a little bit. But it would have been an absolutely fantastic goal. But we didn't create an awful lot in the game. We had that chance. You know, we had another couple of half chances. And, you know, obviously, you know, we got the winner, Gylfi Sigurdsson getting the winner. And I actually think Bernard does fantastically well. And I think Bernard changed the game for us yesterday. And we will speak about Bernard a little bit later on. Because I think he was brilliant when he come on. And you know, you got to give credit when credit's due. I've given Bernard a lot of criticism recently. So it's only fair to give him, you know, praise when he plays well. Everton Bot says, hey Cam, Merry Christmas. Do care about the match as long as we win. Spot on. Matty Lamb, what's happening, Matty? Ned says, had to watch the game from behind the microphone while giggling. From what I saw, it was a real scrappy dog fight. I thought DCL scored when he brought it down for the volley off his chest. Good 3 points. Spot on, mate. It was a scrappy fight, but it was always going to be like that. It was always going to be like that. Ultimately, we were coming up against the side, like I said before, who haven't won a game all season, who are struggling, probably know their fate at the moment, which is that, unfortunately for them, they'll be playing Championship football next season, and they were just desperate to not lose that game. And when you mix that with an Everton side who are lacking 4 or 5 key creative players, it was always going to be difficult. But like I said, the most important thing is we come away with the win. Jason says, yesterday it was weather that nearly won the game. And Wormy says, it's easy to say that we lose with the likes of Richie, James and Dean, even with the 4 centre-backs, which make us inevitably more defensively sound, but very little in the way of creating chances, hence why Coleman came on. Well, yeah, I think Seamus come on to do that, as well as to give Michael Keane a little bit of a rest, because it's quite obvious that Michael Keane will play tomorrow. But, again, that's what that defence brings you, doesn't it? Like you said, it brings you so much more defensive stability and so much more defensive cover, but then you're losing out on the creativity of Luca Dean, you're losing out on the forward-thinking play of Seamus Coleman. When Hammers isn't in there, you get the effort from Alex Iwobi, but you don't get anywhere near as much creativity. So it's sort of like, positives in one part and negatives in the other. But again, I'm not standing for any of this. We're a better team without Hammers, this, that, the other. Said it in the game against Arsenal, said it after the game against Manchester United, and I'll say it after yesterday's game. If Hammers had been on that pitch, we'd have created an awful lot more opportunities than we did. Because we did struggle at times in the game. Ultimately, the game started and we made it very, very difficult for ourselves. They were coming at us. They were sort of looking a little bit confident, which surprised me a bit, because I thought, again, this is a side who would have been looking at Everton thinking, what, even without the key players, they've still got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who's very, very good going forward, can create chances in terms of holding the ball down. Obviously, he's been clinical goal scorer this season. They've still got Gylfi Sigurdsson, who's on a decent run of form and who's confident. They've got Alex Iwobi, who's good and physical and can run with the ball and use his pace and use his energy. So, I thought Sheffield United had been looking at Everton thinking, what, maybe we'll sit back a little bit defensively and maybe we'll just hit them on the break. But they weren't. They come with this air of confidence that you have to sort of respect, because it's a confidence that's come from, we've got absolutely nothing to lose, so we've just got to go out and try and win the game. And we did make it very difficult for ourselves in that opening 10 or 15 minutes. We allowed them to come through. We allowed them to create, the odd half chance. And, again, I don't want to say luckily for us, because we did defend well in the game, but they just didn't have enough quality to hurt us. They just didn't have enough quality to make us pay for that. And again, we sort of got our foothold on the ball as the game went on. But it wasn't a classic first half whatsoever. It wasn't awful. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't a classic whatsoever. And again, we were doing okay. We were controlling the more of the ball. We were getting forward, but you could see the clear lack of creativity in that Everton side, certainly in the first half. You know what? I want to give a special shout out to Tom Davies in that first half, because I thought he was absolutely excellent. He was picking the ball up, he was running, he was throwing challenges in, he made some really good clearances, he got the ball back on a number of occasions, he was moving the ball forward, his pass completion rate was fantastic. I thought Tom Davies put in his best performance in an Everton shirt yesterday, and that includes that game against Manchester City 4 years ago when he scored that worldie. Tom Davies hasn't put that good of a performance in consistently over a 90-minute spell since he's been a senior player at Everton Football Club. I don't care what anybody says, and you might sit there thinking, yeah, but he's still not good enough, he's still not this, he's still not. I was sitting, like I said, in the pub. My dad was on another table. My uncle was with my dad, who's come down from, he come down to see his mum, my nan basically, who's in a care home at the moment, and he was there, and he was saying, Tom Davies, he doesn't do enough, he's not good enough, he's this, that, the other. Literally come up to him and said, you can't fault Tom Davies in that first half. He absolutely brilliant. He picked the ball up, he won the ball when he needed to do. And listen, Tom Davies mightn't be as good as Alan. In fact, he's not as good as Alan. We all know this, it's no surprise. He's not as good as Alan. But what he is he is the closest replacement to Alan that we have. So when he steps into that role, he is a little bit of a dog. Alan might be a pit bull, he might be a little bit of a shih tzu, but he'll still bite at the ankles, he'll still pick the ball up, he'll still move forward. And I thought he absolutely bossed that midfield yesterday. I really, really did. Whether you like him or not, whether you think he's good enough or not, he really bossed that midfield battle yesterday. He picked the ball up when he needed to. He brought it forward. He was winning fouls in good areas. He was winning the ball back. He was even giving away fouls when he needed to just completely and utterly stop Sheffield United's momentum. And that's exactly the type of performance that we need from Tom Davies. And he was doing that in the first half. And, although, again, like I said, we were making it difficult we're making it difficult for ourselves with, sloppy passing and allowing them to come on at us. Tom Davies was that player in the middle who was, he was getting the ball back, winning it back, bringing it forward, passing it out. He just seems like he's playing with confidence, and ultimately, footballers perform at their best level when they're playing with confidence. Look at Alex Iwobi in the past couple of weeks. Look at Gylfi Sigurdsson in the past couple of weeks. Look at Tom Davies yesterday. He's been given a little run in the team. He's been given a chance to prove himself. And he's playing with confidence. And he's playing much, much, much better. For me, he was brilliant against Arsenal as well. Give away a penalty, which is stupid. And again, you can't really, you can't back him for that, because it was a stupid penalty to give away, and it was a clear penalty. He shouldn't be swinging his foot there. But let's just not look at that penalty. For the rest of the game against Arsenal, he was very good in midfield. He had a big part to play in our first goal. He was bringing the ball forward. He was winning the ball back. It was the same yesterday. I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and he deserves credit where credit's due, because he absolutely mastered that midfield. And if that was Alan in there, who performed like Tom Davies and who had the same pass completion rate and he was winning the ball back as much, if it was Alan in there, we'd all still be talking about him. We'll all be talking about him, talking about how brilliant it was and how it was a midfield masterclass. So it should be the same with Tom Davies. Nobody's saying you'd have to completely change your mind and say, oh, he's their boss now. Nobody's saying that. But he put in a fantastic, fantastic performance yesterday in that midfield. He battled, it was a real dogfight, and he got involved, and he wanted the dogfight. And that was what it was always going to be against Sheffield United. They were always going to come and make it physical and make it hard for us. And he did that, and Tom Davies stepped up to that. He wanted to get involved in that dogfight. He wanted to make that hard. And Andre Gomes come off the bench, and I actually think Andre Gomes played well off the bench. He done exactly what he needed to do. But I can't help but feel like if Andre Gomes would have started the game, he wouldn't have had the same impact as Tom did, and I thought Tom Davies was really, really good yesterday, so I'm giving him a lot of credit. But like I said, not much happened in that first half, did it? Let's not kid ourselves, not a lot happened. We had a couple of half opportunities. Like I said, we were getting forward on occasion. Not too sure whether we had many, can't recall other than the Calvert-Lewin chance if we had many clear-cut opportunities, to be perfectly honest with you. They were coming down our end, give them a couple of easy corners as well, but ultimately we defended quite well against the side who were low on confidence, and ultimately are struggling to score. Jordan Pickford never really come into question, never really had to do anything in the game, because that defensive line just kept a strong, like I said, strong organisation and a strong back line. Ben Godfrey, again, absolutely outstanding yesterday. Absolutely outstanding. This lad, look, you're probably sitting there thinking, is Cam going on about Ben Godfrey again? Is Cam in love with Ben Godfrey? He's just boss. He's just absolutely boss. And imagine if we'd have signed Gabriel in the summer. I was thinking this yesterday, and someone put a tweet up about it before, and I thought, you know what, that's a belter tweet. Listen, I think Gabriel's a decent player, and he's probably been Arsenal's best player so far this season. But imagine we signed Gabriel in the summer, we wouldn't have Ben Godfrey. How boss is Ben? Now, I don't want to start a debate about who's better, but Ben Godfrey, since coming into Everton, has played right back, left back, and centre back in a 3. He hasn't played his natural position as a centre half in a back 4. Played left back again yesterday, absolutely outstanding. There's a moment in the game, I think it's in the second half, where he picks the ball up from pretty much a central area. He just bursts down that left hand side, bursts down the line. Some lad, mate, I can't remember which player it was, but makes a tackle on him. The fella who makes the tackle ends up going into Rowe's head, and Ben Godfrey goes down on his knees, but just wants to get up and carry on. Obviously, it's a foul because he got nowhere near the ball, but he is such a steam train in that, as a left back. And we can talk about the lack of creativity when Luca Dean isn't in the team, and the lack of forward-thinking play from Ben Godfrey, and that's fair enough, because he's not in there to do that. He's in there to be that solid defence, exactly what he's been doing. But when he gets forward, Ben Godfrey, he gets forward, doesn't he? Jesus Christ, he is literally like a steam train. He just blasts and blasts and blasts and just bodies his way through everybody. It doesn't matter who he's against. The lad, he's so fast. I didn't realise he was that fast when we signed him, but he's just rapid. He is absolutely rapid, and he gets down that left-hand side. He steam trains his way through, and again, he done it yesterday, and it was absolutely brilliant play. And he won a foul in a very, very decent area for us. But ultimately, defensively, he was very, very solid all game. He was doing what we've seen him do over the last couple of weeks, actually, and that's pointing at players, telling players where they need to be, telling players what they need to be doing. He's showing real leadership qualities, and considering he's a lad playing out of position, he's playing his absolute heart out. And it's not like you look at Ben Godfrey and think, oh, he's working hard there, but you can see it's not his natural position. If somebody who didn't watch football watched Everton yesterday and looked at Ben Godfrey, they'd say that must be his natural position, because he's so comfortable there. He's so good on the ball. He's bursting forward. Defensively, his positioning is very, very good. He's just so solid there. And considering this lad had never played left back before he come into Everton, it just shows how good of a footballer he is. He's a real top footballer. Mason Holgate on the other side again, come out for the game against Manchester United. Obviously, Seamus Coleman went in. I thought it was a really good decision by Carlo Ancelotti to go back to that back four of Godfrey, Mina, Keane and Holgate, because I thought Mason played really well yesterday. Obviously, Carlo made a couple of changes going into the game. Jordan Pickford was back in the starting 11, which I had no massive issue with, because I sort of understood that it would happen. Jordan Pickford played against Robin Holt. I can't remember, but Jordan Pickford started in the game. Again, like I said, Carlo reverted back to that back line of Godfrey, Mina, Keane and Holgate, which I think was absolutely the right decision, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think that back line has been so solid recently. Like I said, only 1 goal conceded in the last 4 games, and it was a penalty. No goals conceded from open play. They've just been very, very solid, and I don't think there's any need to change that defensive back line, even though Seamus Coleman's returned to fitness. Why change a team that's performing so well? The midfield being Abdoulaye Doucouré, Gylfi Sigurdsson and Tom Davies. Tom Davies coming in for Andre Gomes, which again I felt was the right decision, because I feel like Tom Davies is more of a natural replacement to Alan. Is he as good as Alan? No. Does he do a good job as Alan? No. But again, he's his natural replacement. And look, Tom Davies stepped in yesterday and was absolutely outstanding. He was brilliant. He done exactly what we needed him to do. He won the ball in the middle. He fought for every pass. His pass completion was good. He wasn't giving the ball away. He was that real dog in the middle who was just completely... He was frustrating Sheffield United, and he wasn't allowing them to create anything through the centre. Gylfi Sigurdsson again. Did he have his greatest game? No, he didn't. He wasn't unbelievable, to be perfectly honest with you. But again, popped up with the winning goal. And you can still sit here and say he didn't have a great game, but he scored the winning goal. But I think you'd have to give him a lot of plaudits for that, because ultimately he said in his post-game interview after it, I was playing in defensive midfield, so I don't know why I was in the box at that time, but he was, and he coolly finished. It wasn't the easiest finish in the world. It was a really good across-goal finish when he had a lot of pressure on him. Brilliant finish, can't fault him. And then the forward line, obviously, Anthony Gordon coming in for Richarlison, who picked up the concussion in the game against Manchester United. Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Alex Iwobi, no surprises there. And like I said, going into the game, I think it was sort of like a bit of a mixed bag of emotions, wasn't it? It was bittersweet, because we were thinking, getting Anthony Gordon starts, and we get to see Anthony Gordon playing, but Richarlison's out with the concussion, and I don't know exactly what the new concussion rule is in the Premier League, but I would assume, given that we play Manchester City tomorrow night, that he'll probably miss that game against Manchester City as well, through that rule of having to spend a certain amount of time out when you've had a concussion. But Anthony Gordon got his opportunity, and look, I thought he done okay. I don't think that performance should sort of cloud Anthony Gordon and make it think, he didn't do enough, so it's clear why he's not in the starting 11. He was thrown in yesterday at a time when, let's be honest, no one expected it. I didn't expect to see Anthony Gordon in the starting 11. He was thrown in, he worked dead hard, but he didn't do an awful lot. He worked very, very hard. His effort was there, his passion was there, but he didn't do an awful lot going forward. And that's not necessarily a massive negative for Anthony Gordon. That just shows that he stepped in, and his role has been, coming up against the side where he has to do a little bit more work, and he hasn't got that creative freedom. Now, Bernard come on, obviously, for Anthony Gordon, 50, 60 minutes in. And he was coming on against tired legs. He was, being able to show his pace, being able to show his quality and run at Sheffield United, which I think was a really, really, really good move. And Ian says it in the comments, and we will get back into the comments in a moment. To be honest, there was a lot of space to exploit yesterday. It was very disappointing that we didn't open up and play on the front foot a lot more than we did. All the subs were boss moves. They were. Every substitution that Carlo made yesterday worked. And we spoke about how weak our squad is and how, it's disappointing when you're seeing the bench and there's not a lot of quality on the bench, but you have to give it to Carlo Ancelotti. Yesterday, every single substitution that he made worked. And I remember sitting there at half time and thinking, what do we think about that half? Okay, there's not a lot of creativity, it's being pretty boring, we've gifted them a couple of chances that we shouldn't be gifting them. Let's look to our bench. Oh no, the bench is atrocious. That's not going to come on and change a game. But it did. Bernard come on, and to be fair to Bernard, he changed the game. He was absolutely fantastic. Andre Gomez come on, done what he needed to do, held the ball up, won a couple of fouls in decent areas, used his strength, used his body, played really well. Seamus Coleman come on for Michael Keane and just provided that solidity at right back, and Mason stepped back into a centre back role. Every substitution that Carlo Ancelotti made worked yesterday, and that shows that these players can work when they want to. Bernard's performance yesterday, again, best performance Bernard's put in an Everton shirt in a long, long time. He needs to do more of that. He absolutely needs. I want to see Bernard coming on. If he's coming off the bench, I want to see Bernard coming on against tired legs, running at players, using his skill, using his tricky feet, using his pace, getting into the right areas. Had a big part of playing the goal. It's a brilliant layoff to Decore, who ultimately lays it off to Sigurdsson, who finishes. Bernard was fantastic when he come on. We need to see more of those types of performances from Bernard, rather than the types of performance where he's just not getting involved in the game and he's getting the ball, and instead of running at defenders and using his pace, he's passing it off. That was what we saw when he come on against Manchester United. Didn't have an impact. Was just getting the ball and looked too scared to run at the defenders, looked too scared to try and create something, just wanted to pass it to somebody else and go, there you go, it's not my responsibility anymore. Yesterday, he wanted the ball, he wanted to move forward, he was using his tricky feet, he was winning fouls, he was bringing the ball forward, he was excellent, he was absolutely excellent. I haven't got a bad word to say about him yesterday, and the frustrating thing is, about a player like Bernard, is that is what he can do. He can bring that type of quality, he can bring that type of intensity, that creativeness going forward, but he just needs to do it on a more consistent basis. And yesterday you can't fault him. Wim says, I was amazed Gylfi played. I thought Gylfi ran his arse off against Man United, really tired, thinking he was probably tanked out, composed when the chance came his way. That's what we need of a 30-year-old pro. The news to calm, pick his spot, take a touch and slot it away. Exactly, and look, again, we all give Gylfi Sigurdsson an awful lot of criticism. After the game against Burnley, we give him a lot of criticism because, he didn't have the composure and he panicked and he didn't want the ball. Over the last 3 games, what we've seen, especially in the game against Chelsea, sorry, I had to clear my throat. He got the penalty, he had the composure, he slotted it away. It was a fantastic penalty. Again, yesterday, that was a difficult chance, that. Don't get me wrong, it's not the best finish in the world, it's not the best goal you'll ever see, but it was a difficult chance. He had a lot of pressure on him by Sheffield United defenders, and ultimately he had to pick his spot and cut it across goal and finish it calmly, and he did. It was a fantastic, fantastic goal, and you've got to give credit where credit's due again to Gylfi Sigurdsson. It was brilliant. We will get back into the live comments in a moment. If you're enjoying, by the way, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Recently hit 3,200 subscribers, so big thanks to everybody for that. Again, like I said, share the stream on social media. Let's try and get as many people in here as possible. But ultimately, like I said, again, we're going at half time. It's not the greatest game. We are lacking creativity. Dom's had that chance, which is absolutely unbelievable. By the way, brilliant opportunity. Like I said, had there been on the tables, mate, if that had gone in. There'd have been a pint of Carlin, absolutely lashed top bins if that had gone in, because it would have just been unbelievable. Brilliant chest, just shoots wide. But there's not an awful lot to go off in the first half. It's sort of what you make of that. Bit boring, dead boring, nothing's happened, and we haven't got much creativity. You look to the bench then and you think, again, who comes on and changes this game? Who comes on and actively makes the difference here? Starting the second half, again, quite similarly, we're controlling the play, we're having a bit of the ball, we're getting forward, we're creating the odd half chance, but nothing's really coming to it. We need that cutting edge, we need that player that creates something out of nothing. Defensively, they're getting forward. They had one chance just before the half-time whistle where they flashed one across the goal line. I think Jordan Pickford actually makes a really good save. and it would have gone out for a corner, but the referee blew for half-time. And we come out in the second half, like I said, 10 or 15 minutes in, still very much of the same, not an awful lot to report on, very frustrating, not a lot happening, to be perfectly honest with you. Carlo makes a change, Anthony Gordon comes off. Now, I'm not going to lie, when I seen this change, Carlo made, I thought, quite harsh on Anthony Gordon. That he's had 50 minutes of football for the first time in a long, long time, and ultimately you ragged him off either because you're not happy with him or because, again, to be perfectly honest with you, Anthony Gordon wasn't having a great game. He was working hard. He wasn't really creating much. Neither was anybody else. It could have been anybody that left the pitch. But you have to give Carlo Ancelotti plaudits and credit because he brought Bernard on. And I'm not going to lie, when Bernard come on, I thought, don't see him changing anything here. Don't see him getting forward. Don't see him taking players on. I don't see him making an impact in this game of football because ultimately he's had opportunity after opportunity in recent weeks and he hasn't made an impact. Bernard come on and was absolutely fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. To be fair, if Ben Godfrey didn't play as well as he did and Tom Davies didn't play as well as he did, Bernard would have been in contention for man of the match, and he only played, 35 minutes, something like that. He was excellent. He was absolutely excellent. Every time he got the ball, he wanted to move forward. He was cutting inside. He was using his feet. He wanted the ball. He was asking for it. He was saying, give it to me. I'll go there. I'll use me pace. I'll use me power. I'll use me energy. It was like a different Bernard. It was a confident Bernard. It was a Bernard that wanted to impress. It was a Bernard that wanted to take his chance. And I expect Bernard to start tomorrow against Manchester City. I do, because I don't expect Carlo Ancelotti to start Anthony Gordon after, he had a decent game. He worked hard, but didn't really offer an awful lot. And Bernard's come off the bench and Bernard's offered, an awful lot. He's played really, really well. So I expect Bernard to start tomorrow. And I hope we see the same Bernard performance as we did yesterday off the bench. I hope we see him wanting the ball, moving forward, creating chances, making a nuisance of himself. And I honestly think Bernard changed the game for Everton yesterday. He really, really did. Because what he did was, like I said, he just wanted to get involved and he wanted to create. And we needed that bit of creativity. We needed that bit of magic. And when he come on, you could see he was winning fouls in good areas. He was playing players into great positions. He was actively winning the ball. He wanted to get involved. And he changed it. And it was a fantastic substitution by Carlo Ancelotti. It really, really was, because it worked. Carlo then made another substitution a little bit later on in the game. Michael Keane come off for Seamus Coleman. I did fear that there'd be an injury, but ultimately it was clear why Michael Keane come off. It's because he'll play tomorrow against Manchester City, and he wanted him to have a little bit of a rest, and that's fair enough. I've got no real issue with that. Seamus Coleman come on, moved into the right back position. Mason Holgate moved back to centre back. Seamus done okay when he come on, brought the ball forward, used his energy and just got it as nearest away from our goal as he possibly could. Got into some good positions as well. Alex Iwobi played a brilliant ball into him and he fizzed it across the box, Seamus Coleman, and it was just nobody there to finish. It was just behind everybody. But he was absolutely excellent yesterday. Andre Gomez, the third substitution, come on again. Hasn't been playing brilliantly recently, really hasn't, but he come on and he ultimately done what we need Andre Gomez to do. Use his body, win fouls in good areas, and just ultimately become a nuisance in that midfield. And that's what he done. He used his strength. He played a couple of fantastic balls into really, really good areas. He had an opportunity himself where he mangled his way through, just couldn't get on the end of it. Played really, really well, and every substitution that Carlo Ancelotti made in that second half changed the game for the better for Everton. Bernard come on, give that creativity, give that energy, give that pace up front. Gomez come on and just settled it down, used his strength, battled, won the ball, like I said, barged players off the ball, and Coleman come on and just ultimately solidified that back line and give that bit more of an attacking presence going forward and allow Mason to step back into his natural centre-back position. I also think Dominic Calvert-Lewin played really, really well yesterday. I really did. I think ultimately Dominic Calvert-Lewin, again, even, I say it every week, he doesn't have to score, Dom, and he's still putting in man-of-the-match performances. He really, really is. And, ultimately, that's what you want from a striker. You want your striker to be coming out of a game and you can say, you didn't create an awful lot, you didn't score, you didn't assist, but you've still put in an 8 or 9 out of 10. Like I said, the effort he has is unbelievable, and if it goes in, we're still talking about it next year. But his work rate is fantastic. His work rate is absolutely fantastic. He's constantly battling, he's constantly getting the ball. And there was a couple of times in that first half where he sort of moved out wide a little bit, which was frustrating because you're wanting him to be in the box to get on the end of crosses, but he's trying to create the chances, so he's moving out wide and there's nobody in the box. That is a bit frustrating, but that's Dominic Calvert-Lewin for you. He's wanting to get involved. If he can see that not much is happening, he'll go and try and make it happen himself. Thought Abdoulaye Doucouré was fantastic yesterday as well. Really, really, really solid. Winning the ball back in dangerous areas, using his strength, just bulldozing past players, absolutely bulldozing past players, and using his big physical presence to his advantage. Brilliant yesterday. Alex Iwobi, again, decent performance. Was it his best performance in recent weeks? Probably not, but it was a really decent performance. He had one chance where he mangled his way through about 4 or 5 players. Really, really quick feet, and he just doesn't get the shot away on the edge of the box. If he does, it'd been a fantastic, fantastic goal. He had another one where he had 2 men around him, and he just flicked it past them. I can't remember what the skill move's called. You'll know what it is, but he just flicked the ball right in between them, and they just completely stood there like, I don't know what to do. Again, a player playing with confidence, a player who's wanting to make a difference, who's wanting to show his ability, and he has done that over the last 3 games. He's been fantastic, and ultimately, like I said, the difference for Everton was that Carlo made those 3 changes, and every single substitute made an impact in a different way that ultimately, pushed Everton to get the 3 points. We'll talk about the goal in a moment. Where are we then? Keeper Boy says hi. Mike says, Cam, I agree with you about not changing the winning team, so Hammers and Allen must wait for their chances when fit. Well, when Hammers is back in the team fit, he probably will come back in because we do lack his creativity, similar with Allen. But again, whilst those players aren't fit, we don't need to change it. But you're right, players have to be able to fight for the chance. That's what breeds hunger. That's what breeds the winning mentality. Jonathan says, a third of the way through the season now. What are your predictions for the rest of the season? It's difficult, mate, because it's still a long, long way to go. But if we continue in this run of form, if we continue in this vein, and we can continue picking points up and winning these games of football that aren't necessarily classics, and we don't necessarily have, a plethora of opportunities in, but the one real chance that we get, we score and we win the game, then I think that's a real show of the improvement and where we can possibly finish this season. Who knows, maybe even top 4. Raymond says, I don't agree with don't change a winning team. If Alan comes back, don't put him in for Tom. Richie comes back straight in, as does Dean. But more importantly, if we want to be a top 4 club, squad rotation is necessary. No players are playing all the games, so it's best to get your squad comfortable with a rotation strategy. Otherwise, when people go out, you're in a mess. Spot on. And Ian says it's definitely the end of the beginning, and now as the old ages goes, we see where we are at Christmas and then adjust our goals. Hopefully top 6 at very least. Yeah, top 6 should be the minimum, mate. The absolute minimum, like you said, at the very, very least, and it's achievable. It is really, really achievable. Ultimately, like I want to talk about the mentality and the mentality shift a little bit more before we finish this team, and we will talk about that. But yeah, you're spot on. It's difficult with the change in a winning team because, again, Dean comes back tomorrow, he probably fits back in, but ultimately, Alan comes back in, he probably fits back in for Tom, but those players aren't going to be fit for another few weeks or so at least, and we play Manchester City tomorrow. So for me, Tom Davies starts tomorrow, Ben Godfrey starts at left back tomorrow, and you go with that. Like I said, we will have our game preview up a little bit later on, so check that one out. Everton was fair, says, just went to Everton 1, picked up a nice training jacket for my runs. Is right, mate. Ewan says DCL missed a good chance to score yesterday, but his shot was over the bar. He did. Matty Lamb says, I remember the whole of the Gladys seat shitting it because we thought Pickford caught the ball outside the box against Burnley Boxing Day last year. It was freezing as well. Exactly, it was a difficult game, that, but again, one that we come away with the 3 points. Jason says, hoping Big Sam does a big favour later. Hopefully, mate. EGTV, Gal, what's happening, mate? He says, how's it going? I'm not too bad, mate. Good win for you yesterday. Mike says, defensively unbelievable at the moment. Spot on. Toby says, brilliant win. Players who have been counted out doing the job. Davis, Sigurdsson, Davis, Mina, Ancelotti showing what a great manager he is, improving Everton so much within a single year. Spot on. Keeper Boy says, hi. Matty says, thanks for ruining my Sunday, Cam. You've char-grilled my beef. Is right, Matty. Is right. Any pigs in blankets going, Matty, or what? What are we saying then? Warzone 1 says, great channel. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Ian says, nice one, Cam. Hope you've had a good one and all the best for the new year. Cheers, mate. You too. It's been brilliant so far. Brilliant win yesterday to top it off. Happy New Year to you as well. Toby says, bananas to the Davis. Christine says, Bernard starts in front of Gordon tomorrow. Fair enough. Wim says, too much long ball for me, obviously because of personnel. It's the wrong strategy to take throwing balls into Sheffield's box. They're happy to deal with that. It took a little bit of clever play in the box to get the goal. Make no mistake, Manchester City won't be having only 3 shots all game. Defence will be tested tomorrow. I think Bernard came on, was better than Gordon, but still play Gordon for me. Bernard is going. Think Tom's injured. Went off limping a bit. Don't know who's going to play tomorrow. Well, hopefully it was just a precautionary thing and he can we can shake that off. Again, it's interesting about Bernard and Gordon. Obviously, like I said, we'll talk about that in the preview a little bit later on. Ian says Tom had a very good first half against Arsenal too, if it wasn't for the pen. Spots on. Wayne says Tom Davies did okay against Arsenal and played well last night, but Arsenal did play 2 midfielders, giving us the midfield overload, and Sheffield United were happy for Tom to have the ball while they were dropped. Back in the defensive setup, so they gave Tom time to operate. He still did okay and good for him to get games. Exactly, and listen, and it's interesting in it because we say that and we talk about how, ultimately, this team played to Tom's advantages and this team allowed Tom Davies to do this and do that. What that game will have done yesterday for Tom Davies will breed confidence for him. Yes, he mightn't have come up against the best opposition. Yes, they might have played to his strengths. But he'll now be playing with a lot of confidence, which means that when he comes into games playing against sides that make it difficult for him, he's still playing with confidence. So he's still wanting to go out, make the challenges, bring the ball forward. Sometimes it takes a game against the side that aren't brilliant to give you that little bit of boost of confidence. And then when you play against the better teams, you've got that confidence to start off on, and you ultimately, you're going to play better for it. Ian says, loving Godfrey, he's brilliant. Matty says he's very Ferdinand, this Ben Godfrey. He'll make a class captain one day. They only play with the bollocks to shout at his teammates. Exactly, mate. You seen it a couple of weeks ago, the Burnley game. He was screaming at James Rodriguez. He screamed at Andre Gomez. I think it was in the Chelsea game to move forward. He's just brilliant, mate. William says, I told you, Cam, before we got him, he is a rapid and powerful runner. He certainly is. Uden says, who's your man of the match? Probably Tom Davies, to be fair. Mike says Tom Davies can learn from Alan. There's still time for Tom. You're spot on. We have read that one about exploiting space. Wayne says right back at the right wing for top 6. And Uden says after the City game, Everton play West Ham on Friday. We certainly do. We'll get back into the live comments in a moment then. But like I said, Carlo made the changes and ultimately they changed the game for Everton Football Club. Bernard come on, absolutely brilliant, provided that power in attack. Andre Gomez come on, had that solidity in the midfield. Seamus Coleman come on, done really, really well right back. And ultimately, we get up the other end of the pitch. Big ball by Seamus Coleman. I think it's aimed towards Dom. The defender makes the header. Bernard with an unbelievable touch. Plays it to Decore. Decore just plays it off to Sigurdsson. And it's a fantastic finish by Gylfi Sigurdsson. And that is the moment in the game that we needed. That winning moment. That moment that you can sit there and you can say, this has been a dreadful hour and a half of my time wasted. But we've come away with the win. So it doesn't matter. We've come away with the 3 points. And we sit in second in the Premier League. Do we need to adapt for City tomorrow night? Yes, we do. They're going to have an awful lot more opportunities. We're going to need to probably defend a little bit better because we did give Sheffield United a couple of unnecessary chances. Probably need to be a bit more solid in the midfield as a whole as well. And we need to be more creative going forward because we're not going to get away with scoring one in the 80th minute tomorrow against City. But those are things that Carlo Ancelotti needs to look at going into tomorrow's game. What we have to do for this game is ultimately look at the performance and look at the fact that it was an audible game of football. It was a difficult game of football, and we still come out with the 3 points. Brilliant performance by Bernard off the bench. Really, really think it was. Gylfi Sigurdsson made up for him, getting the winning goal. Absolutely fantastic. Yerry Mina and Michael Keane again. Very, very, very solid defensively. And ultimately, it's another win. It's 4 out of 4. It's 12 points out of 12. And, again, do we need to improve? Yes, but given the squad issues, given the fact we were without Richarlison, and we hadn't won a game without Richarlison in the squad since he's been at Everton, we were without James, without Dean, without Alan, it's a brilliant win for me. Do we need to improve going into tomorrow? Absolutely, but we're coming up against the City side with a massive squad, loads of quality, and it's going to be very, very difficult, which meant that yesterday it was so important that we got the 3 points, and we did, and it was brilliant in the way that we did that. I want to talk about mentality then before we finish up. The mentality at Everton Football Club that Carlo Ancelotti has brought in since he's been here. 12 months Carlo Ancelotti has been here. He managed his first Everton game on Boxing Day in 2019. Brilliant. Really, really tough game like we mentioned before. 1-0 win against Burnley. A couple of weeks later, we go to Newcastle. We beat them 2-0 away from home. We didn't win away games under Marco Silva. An away win was like You know, it was like bloody far, far away in Shrek. You just didn't see it. And it was a brilliant, brilliant win against Newcastle. Couple of weeks after that, we go 2-0 down against Watford away from home. We come back, we win the game. Something that we would never have done under Marco Silva. Never have done under any of the previous 4 or 5 managers that we've had. Probably since David Moyes' time. Again, fast forward. A few months later, start of this season, we beat Tottenham Hotspur. We haven't managed to do that for years and years and years. We go on a run of games in the league. 7 out of 7, 4 out of 4 in the league. We're top of the league. None of this. Everton can go top today and then thinking, oh shit, we're going to lose now. No, just go out and do the business, win the game. Yesterday, again, big chance to go second against the side who haven't won a game all season. In search of their first 3 points. Chris Wilder in search of his 100 winners as Sheffield United manager. Do Everton doing Everton? No. We do the new Everton, which is just go out and win. We need to change as fans this Everton that mentality. Fuck the Everton that mentality right off. There's no Everton that now. Everton that is that we go out and win. We're managed by a serial winner in Carlo Ancelotti who doesn't know the Everton that mentality of throwing games. And I know we've had the Liverpool result in the Cup and the Newcastle result, which was a shock one at home. But Carlo Ancelotti doesn't know you're one game away from being in the top 2 in the Premier League. You're coming up against the side who haven't won all season. Why is the mentality, we know what's going to happen here, we're going to lose. Why don't we just go out and win like we should do? That's what Carlo Ancelotti's mentality is, and he's instilled that into this football club, and you can see it, it's night and day. A large part of the improvement that Everton have made in the year that Carlo Ancelotti has been here is that mentality switch of, why are you worried about this team? Oh, well, because we haven't, this lad hasn't scored in 6 months. And what? All the more reason is to go out and beat them. We go out and beat them now. The Newcastle game away from home last season, the Burnley game on Boxing Day, this game yesterday, the Watford game away from home last season, the Spurs game earlier on this season, even the West Brom and Brighton game earlier on this season when we were creating and scoring freely, the Chelsea game this season, the Leicester game, all of these games show, and many more by the way, show the mentality change and shift at Everton Football Club that Carlo Ancelotti has brought in. And he isn't adopting this time for Everton mentality. He's adopting this, just go out and win a game of footy, lads. And we just go out and win a game of footy. No moaning, no whining, without Richarlison, Luka Dean, Alan. Again, James Rodriguez. 4 wins out of 4. Beat Chelsea, Leicester, Arsenal, Sheffield United. Second in the league. No whining about injuries. Just going out and winning. And that is the mentality change that Carlo Ancelotti has brought into this football club. And that is why we're in such a better position now than we were 12 months ago. Second in the league. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard tomorrow. It really, really is. But ultimately, this was a massive win yesterday and a much needed win. Let's get into the live comments then before we finish up. Wimmy says, for us now, we are obviously fighting to be a top 4 club, but being a top 4 club means a shitload more games. Squad depth rotation is very important. Look at City or Bayern or Liverpool. Exactly. And we need to improve the squad. The squad depth needs to improve. We all know that. And that's a big job for Carlo and Marcel Brands within the next couple of windows, of course. Ewan says, is Richie back for West Ham? He should be, mate. I think he should be. Ewan says, do you think Everton will get Champions League football this season? I hope so. Damien says, hopefully 3 points tomorrow, but think at best we should hope for a point. At least City are that good. I hope you had a good Christmas, mate. Thank you very much, mate. I did. It was brilliant. Look, if we can get a point against City tomorrow, I think that's a decent result. City have got weaknesses that we should look to exploit. We really, really should. It's going to be difficult because we've got key players out. If we had our full starting 11 out, our best team out, I'd be confident of going and beating City tomorrow. We haven't, so it's going to be difficult, but ultimately, again, we have to go out and we have to believe, and there's confidence running through this team at the moment. Toffee Top says, I get the enthusiasm, but I think you were getting a bit carried away based on the 4 wins in a row. It wasn't a great game, a 6.5 game. Would you give the same scores across on the back of a win, loss, draw, loss? Well, ultimately, again, it wasn't the greatest game, and individually, maybe my player ratings were a bit nice yesterday, but ultimately we've won again. We've won another game that, look at the mentality of Evertonians prior to the game. It was all, this is set up to lose, this is these are set up to win their first game of the season on Boxing Day. Just go out and win. That's what Carlo Ancelotti's brought to Everton now, is just going out, and in the games that you should win, win. Okay, we may should have beaten Burnley and Leeds, and I'm not saying that we'll win every game we should win, but especially when we're in good form and we're confident, that whole what's happened 12 years ago when we haven't beaten them for 16 years and all that just goes out the window. We don't think about the mentality situation from 5 or 10 years ago. We just think about the now. Jaden says, De Bruyne scares me. I think he scares everyone, Jaden. Ian says, it'll be the tightest run-in for European places ever. Is it 3.78 in second from 8th? Exactly, mate, it will. Wim says, for City, I really might consider playing Coleman and putting Holgate at CDM. Going to be a tough game. De Bruyne, Sterling, Fernandinho back, Gundogan bagging in goals. Certainly is going to be tough, mate. Damien says, we've done the Everton that against United for me. Thought we could have gone further in the League Cup, but shit happens, we move on. Well, again, you could say that's an Everton that, or you could say United have got a much better squad. It was a difficult game. We had key players out, and ultimately their squad won them that game, as well as some dodgy refereeing decisions. But we were poor. But again, we bounced back. We didn't allow that United game to get too ahead of us, and oh my God, we've lost this. We bounced back. Just lash me pen. We bounced back and we beat them yesterday. Toffee Top says, I thought Keane was taken off for the rest tactical, but then I heard it was a knock. Not sure about on this though. I think it was more tactical. He might have had a little knock, which might have, pushed the substitution just for, for safety, but I think he'll be okay for tomorrow. Fingers crossed anyway. Ian says, let's hope City are a bit tired and don't fancy a battle. God says, tomorrow is a game I can finally watch when I'm not working. Is right, mate. Wim says, hey, God, how you doing? He also says, I'm great. Wim says, better than waking up at 6 in the morning to watch the games. Right, Gort. Wayne says, hope you're well, mate. Now the boss Christmas. I did. Thank you very much, Wayne. Really appreciate that. And Wayne also says, any chance I can add you on Facebook, mate? Has lost my YouTube channel. Still been supporting your channel. I don't have Facebook, mate. I don't have a Facebook account. I might make a TheMightyBlues Facebook account, to be perfectly honest with you. But I don't currently have one. If I do make one, I'll get in touch with you, Wayne, and you can add me and we'll talk through that. But I haven't got one at the moment, unfortunately. Anyway, that is going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Really, really do appreciate all of the support, as always. Like I said, we'll be back with the game preview to the Manchester City game a little bit later on today. It will be a video, but we'll be back. We'll be giving our predicted starting 11s and predictions for the game. Big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. It means a massive amount to me. Going to be a tough game tomorrow, but look, massive win this yesterday. Really, really big win, and ultimately gives us the confidence going into what's going to be a difficult game. Big thanks for watching. Please leave a like if you've enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you are new as well. Up the toffees. Come on, you Blues. Thank you very much for all of the support recently as well. It means a massive amount to me, and we'll see you soon.